I don't fly drones anymore, really. I mean, this is the first time that I flew my Mavic in a long time. I thought, man, I really need to charge that thing. It's probably sitting there with a dead battery. It hasn't been flown in months. The last time I flew it was for record some sports teams in the very early fall. So fired up the battery and got it out this morning for a gloomy morning to fly around my town here in Benton, where I've been living now for about a year and a half, I guess. Seems like so. Um, let's talk drones. I had a lot of fans on my channel that really liked the drone content, especially when I went out to the Shawnee, and I don't do that anymore. So what happened to me on drones? I'm gonna kind of talk a little bit about that. I'm gonna first off, I just want to tell you this is when I got into FPV, but even before that, the drone hobby is just ridiculously expensive, especially for someone like me. I lost a Phantom 3. I lost two ZRL 250 FPV drones, which those were really low end FPV drones that I got. They were probably under around $100 each in like the frame and parts and stuff, really cheap stuff. I lost a Wizard because I crashed it. A Wizard was a really nice these were all 5-inch racing drones, 250s 5 inch. Home built, yeah. So I had a really, really nice 5 inch kind of like freestyle drone that was really great. I lost it when I had goggle problems and a drone just flew away and I didn't know exactly where I lost it at. And I had a Tyro 99, which was another 4 or 5 inch drone. I don't think it was four. I think it was 100. I think it was 99 because it was $99. But anyway, I lost that thing in a fire. It crashed, a small crash, but the battery caught on fire and it burned up. So it kind of like pretty dramatic. So that was a lot of stuff to lose. What I just added that up. The Phantom 3 was the most expensive. I lost that in my own stupidity. I flew up higher than I should have, and then I didn't realize how windy it was where I was at. Took off I made a video about that a long time ago, but I took off in a valley, and I got up out of the valley and it got caught by the winds and it couldn't come back, and that was a $350 drone. So I also lost a little practice drone that was pretty cheap, but it was like $30, like a line of sight practice drone I bought, Sima. So I ended up like I've lost over $900 in drones, and think about like a hobby. $900 is a lot to lose. I mean, you could you could easily lose that in a lot of hobbies. It's not like it's not gonna, if you're flying drones, then you can probably afford to lose one. It's not I didn't owe payments on any of these drones, but still at the same time that's a lot to lose. So uh, when I got into FPV, that's really like where things went bad because it's so expensive and difficult, but at the same time, it's kind of all encompassing hobby, the FPV, because you're building all your stuff, you're planning your builds, you're building your stuff, you're programming this stuff, you're taking it out and flying it, and then you're editing the footage. I mean, that's the other thing. It's like it's very, very time consuming, especially if you were building. And for me, I did a lot of building. I bought a Nazgul drone that was pre-built, probably the best drone I had. I sold that when I didn't lose it, and I sold it because I was afraid of losing it because it was like a $200 drone and it was really nice, and I didn't want to lose that thing. I got into FPV thinking I would do, because you watch the videos and freestyle looks so cool. And so like I wanted to, do all the cool things they do on freestyle. You see like I was watching. It's like I'm so funny because this was so important to me. Now I can't even remember the names of these people, but I was watching these videos, where this guy would. He flew under a train and it was just like, oh god, this is so cool. He was like the freestyle stuff was like what I wanted to do, and he was kind of almost, oh shit, forgot who that guy was, but he was kind of combining freestyle and long range even sometimes, just doing amazing stuff. So FPV generally comes in four flavors. You've got freestyle, doing tricks, you got long range, going out and covering a lot of ground. It's almost like surfing the ground. You've got the cinema whoop, where you don't go very far, but you record really high quality cinema footage. And then you got the micro whoop. I guess that's another flavor, like tiny drones mainly flying inside. And, for me, when I got into it, I thought the freestyle would be where it's at. but I didn't really have. I mean, I'm sure that I didn't try that hard, but at the same time, I never learned I never really got good at it. Like I just didn't seem to have the skills. Um, I FPV. I didn't even mention racing. I guess that's the fifth flavor. But like drone racing, I don't know. Like I've never seen a drone race. I don't know where. I know they have them, but I think I'd be driving hours and hours and hours to find a drone race. So for me, freestyle kind of sort of wore off its interest, and I got really interested in long range. So I built this 7-inch FPV drone that was going to be my ultimate long range. I got big batteries for it, and I was going to fly out and do like a lot of like long range flights. I got a TBS Crossfire, which is like a very expensive special transmitter to receiver combination for your radio, so that it's it can go very very far. People have go like miles and miles of distance with Crossfire, and uh, that really never really worked out. So the 7-inch drone that I built, there was just a lot of problems. The bigger a drone gets, the more easy it is to break. And while I didn't ever really break the drone too bad, little minor, like just a bad landing or something would end up, I broke like 2 motors on that drone just from like just bad landings. Props were bad. I had a really hard time with that drone and like just being out of balance, because you could get a little damage on a prop, and on a 7-inch prop, a little damage, all of a sudden it's just flying really, really poorly. So 7-inch kind of killed me off there on that. And I never really flew that far. I was always scared of getting very far away. Like I always thought, well, I'm going to lose my video signal. I never invested all the quite right. Like I didn't have a ground station or anything like that. I was just using the antennas on my FPV goggles. So what kind of killed it for me was like I'd already invested all this money. I'd lost all this money, and then DJI Digital comes out, and I need to spend like $1,000 or something. I need this, I don't know, maybe $600. I need to get the DJI stuff, and I'm like, oh man, I'm just not spending any more money. I don't, and it looks so cool having digital goggles, good goggles, good range, and all that stuff. But I just wasn't going to spend that money on it. And then there was this whole like idea of they were going to require remote ID. Flying drones was going to become illegal, which honestly I've never really worried all about that much, but that just kind of hit me and rubbed me the wrong way. Like, oh man, I'm gonna have to like go buy this, the way the law was written. If you didn't have a remote ID, I think I haven't even been following it, but I think they've kind of like put that on hold. Like it was supposed to be a thing, but it's not a thing. I honestly don't even know, really don't even care. But it just seemed like the risk wasn't started to become not really worth the reward. So the last time I actually flew FPV really was in February 2022, almost 2 years ago, close to 2 years ago. I was in a snow, my brother and the kids were sledding and riding 4-wheelers, and I followed around and had a lot of fun. I remember really enjoying doing that. But at the same time, like I didn't really get fired back up to go fly all the time. I really started to feel like it was kind of eating into other aspects of my life. And so I sold a bunch of my drone stuff. I decided to sell the 7-inch. I sold a bunch of all the Crossfire stuff. I sold it, sold a lot of my extra things. I got quite a bit of money selling extra stuff. And then when I moved, I boxed all my drone stuff up, and it's never even been unboxed. It's still out in the garage. All my drone stuff is still unboxed. I still have 2 or 3 drones. I can't even remember how many I have, like FPV drones, at least 2 that I know of. The last time I flew, the very last time, was actually in August 2022. And we were getting ready to move. And it was like we were leaving our house in Harrisburg, and I wanted to do this thing where I flew the drone out the front door and then kind of did because I used to do laps around my house like for practice all the time. So I was going to do this thing where I flew out of my house, did a few laps, went up, kind of looked at it for the last time, and then landed. And I hadn't flown in like 4 or 5 months at that point. Like I hadn't flown since February, and this was August. So it was probably 6 months or something since I'd flown. I charged up a battery, put it in, and I realized there was like I'd forgotten like some of the control setup I had on my and instead of taking the time to, because everything was in such a big hurry when we were moving, instead of taking the time to figure it out, I just took off, realized I couldn't remember exactly what some of my radio settings were, and I switched something off. I had the drone like I took off, I put it into I can't remember the name of the mode, but the wrong mode, and I crashed it into the power lines. And luckily, I didn't lose anything. My GoPro 7 was on there, which I really, really didn't want to lose. All this stuff fell from the power lines. The only thing that broke was the GPS cable come unplugged, but the drone still flew just fine. The GoPro was just fine. But after that, I was just like, you know what? I quit. I'm done. I'm not good enough for this. I don't have the patience for it anymore. I can't keep affording to lose it. So, some problems with and why do I've still got the Mavic and it still works fine. It's a fantastic drone. So why don't I fly the Mavic? The problem with the Mavic is it's not really fun. Once you've flown FPV is fun. You got the drone, you got the goggles, you feel like you're kind of flying it. There's a sense of danger, but with the Mavic, it's kind of like driving a golf cart in the sky. It's just, you're kind of, and I know I've never even really done what I could really do with the Mavic. Like I've never really gone all the way with like, I barely even fly it in sport mode. And it was so expensive when I bought it. It was like $800, and now it's probably worth about $300 or something used because it's been so old. It's still too expensive for me to like mess around with and crash. But trying to fly it in sport mode or something, or trying to fly it more like around objects and do more interesting stuff with it. But some issues with the Mavic is, like first off, I haven't really done anything, gone anywhere where I've even wanted to fly, anywhere interesting anymore. There's places maybe closer to where I live, Ren Lake and stuff. I have flown it around there a couple times since I moved, but for the most part, it just doesn't serve any purpose for it anymore. It's not really fun. And for like a lot of the type of videos I make, it would be if I had a good friend who raced and, mountain bikes or road bikes or whatever, and I was just like their video crew, then I could get some footage of them and stuff. But for me, when I'm racing, I don't have time to bust out the Mavic and, it doesn't follow me, and I can't it's not like a Skydio drone or some of those like sort of selfie drones where it could follow me around and get some video of me riding or something. That would be cool. So it's really just kind of like, I don't necessarily want to sell it, but it just doesn't serve a lot of purpose for me. So it mainly just sits in its case. So maybe one day I'll get back into it. I'm kind of thinking about digging the stuff out of the garage and seeing if any of it still works and getting it going and trying a little FPV, but or selling it. But that's the sad thing, is like what I have now is not too valuable. Nobody really wants old Fat Shark goggles. Nobody, that analog and all that stuff. So anyway, that's my drone video for today. See you guys.